Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. We are so pleased to be here today. Welcome to part 3 of Growth Play's 3-part series, Growth Reimagined, Making Smart Investments in 2020 and Beyond. My name is Deborah Baker, and I'm here today with my partner in crime, the fabulous Tasneem Khokha. And we're pleased to continue the conversation about how firms can make smart decisions about investing in growth during this time of incredible uncertainty. So before we dive into the substance of today's session, we want to give you a quick overview of what to expect. As with the last 2 sessions, we are going to run today's session in 30 minutes. It's going to be short, easy to consume, and actionable. Today, we're focusing on recharging your business development team, and specifically, we're focusing on what we call your doer-seller workforce. That's your frontline attorneys who are the closest thing your firm has to your clients and to new revenue. And we want to talk about what are the best practices for arming them, not only with the skills they need, but with the motivation and the confidence to go out and put in intention around business development. So we're going to run this for 30 minutes. At the end of the 30 minutes, we are going to keep the session going for a few minutes afterwards. We'll be sharing the results of our pulse survey with you. So we hope that you can stay on. And we also hope that if you have any questions, we had over 160 attendees today. So there was a lot of interest in this particular session. So if you do have any questions along the way, please use the Q&A feature or the chat feature, and we will address those questions at the end of the session as well. With that, Tasneem, I'm going to turn it over to you to kick us off.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Deb. It's so great to be with everyone again today, and thank you for joining us. So, as Deb and I were preparing for today's program, we started swapping stories about our relative experiences in the last recession. And it was interesting to see that we had similar stories, but with different results. Deb, I wonder if you want to start with your story, and then I'll chime in with mine.
Awesome. Yeah, when we were talking, it literally was a tale of 2 cities as we were sharing our experience. My situation, I was working in a firm, AmLaw 100 firm, and during the 7 years preceding the Great Recession, we had seen year-over-year growth in revenue, in size, in profitability. We had this great strategic growth plan. And things were going along smoothly. It was a litigation-heavy firm. And because we had great leadership, we also had signs long before the Great Recession, right before the actual recession hit. There were some yellow flags about challenges that were along the way. We knew that there were significant pieces of litigation that were going to be settling, and we wanted to have a plan to do that. So what we did is we pulled a team of top revenue generators together to talk about how to address that. And over the course of a 3-hour meeting, we had a lot of conversations about what the state of the legal profession was, the state of the market, things we need to think about. The outcome of the session was that if we continue to do great work, that will generate new business. That being great lawyers, we had been through recessions before, and it was always because of our reputation and by keeping our heads down and delivering excellent client service that had gotten us through those hard times, and we were quite confident that that would continue in the future. Sadly, that wasn't the case. It was not enough to right the ship, and two weeks after Lehman Brothers collapsed, our firm also folded. It was a 110-year-old firm. So the takeaway from that lesson for me was it wasn't that the firm didn't have a clear vision for success. It's that they didn't know they were surprised by something that didn't happen. But what they didn't do is have a specific actionable plan where the people on the front line knew what they needed to do, had the skills to do it, and felt the urgency that you had to start doing it and now. And for me personally, that's one of the real drivers and the reason I'm doing what I do today. And I think it's another reason that this topic is so critically important, especially as we see what's coming down the road and we see the fact that so many firms are still doing well, but there is an urgency about making sure your fundamentals are protected. That was kind of my object lesson. Taj, your firm had a similar experience, but a very different result. So tell us about that.
Yeah. So similarly, when the last economic downturn hit, I was the head of marketing and business development for a large global firm, and our firm was in particular very heavily weighted towards clients in the financial services and real estate industries. And so the economic downturn impacted our firm greatly and very quickly. We felt that change very quickly. And so my boss, the managing partner of the firm, looked to me and said, Tasneem, we need more business, and your job is marketing and business development. So go make that happen. And I was like, aye, aye, Captain. And the very first thing that occurred to me was that if we were going to drive new business opportunity, new revenue for the firm, I wasn't going to do it single-handedly, nor was my team going to do it. We needed to equip as many people in the firm to drive revenue as possible. And so as a result, we built the firm's first ever formal business development training and coaching program. And over the course of the next 3 years, we trained or coached over half of the firm's 600 lawyers. It was one of the biggest undertakings that our firm had taken when it came to equipping lawyers in marketing and business development. And unlike your story, Deb, the firm did in fact weather the storm. The financial services and real estate practices ultimately did come back, and we were able to generate other revenue in the meantime that kept the firm afloat. And so, from that perspective, the takeaway for me was now is the time to invest in our people, right? Now is the time to invest in the people who are closest to revenue, who are closest to our clients, and to equip them with the skills, the strengths, and the capabilities to drive new revenue. And so now's the time to do it. And we want to talk today about how to do it well. So we'll dive right in. We've got 3 specific business development investment strategies in doer sellers that we want to focus on today. And the first one is level appropriate skill building. So when we think about level appropriate skill building, we think about this as really foundational. One of the things that we find, and we talk to our clients about this problem a lot, is that our clients, our marketing business development professional clients, our professional development clients will often come to us and say, we do these workshops or business development training programs. We create a ton of excitement in the moment. There's a lot of momentum coming out of a workshop or a coaching program or whatever it might be. And then people go back to their offices and they return to their old habits. And it's as if we had never done the program in the first place. And so when we think about level appropriate skill building, what we think about is how do we offer skill building that ensures that people are learning skills over time, that they're learning skills that are immediately applicable to where they are at this very moment, and that then they're layering on new skills as they progress in seniority so that those new skills and habits have time to take root. So you'll see here, for example, when we think about your most junior associates, we want them to be learning skills around personal branding, right? Who is it that they want to be as a professional? How do they want to brand themselves both inside and outside of the firm in a way that creates a consistent message about who they are and what they bring to the table? A second thing that we want to do is help them grow a network, right? One of my colleagues used to call it collecting dots, right? You don't know how the dots are all going to connect just yet, but at a junior associate level, we want people to be collecting good people in their personal and professional networks. And then lastly, of course, we want them to get the fundamentals of good client experience. From the moment our associates hit the door, we want them to be treating the more senior partners and senior associates with whom they work inside of the firm, as well as the clients that they're working with outside of the firm, with the golden glove treatment that all of our firms offer in order to drive repeat opportunity. So it's that kind of thinking about what is the appropriate skill at the appropriate level, and then how do we make business development training and learning iterative over the course of a lawyer's lifetime. This, by the way, we find is an excellent place for marketing and business development professionals and professional development professionals within firms to collaborate. We often find that our PD colleagues have a ton of experience with creating competency and benchmark systems, with creating iterative learning that teaches lawyers skills over time. And so this can be a great place for marketing and business development professionals and professional development professionals to collaborate to create lifelong training programs, like lifelong curriculum, where you are teaching the lawyers appropriate skills at the appropriate level and layering that skill learning so that it does become sustainable into the future. Deb, I know you've worked with a number of clients who have done this. And I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about what this looks like in practice.
Yeah, I would love to do that. I just have to add something to the last point that Tasneem made. I think one of the best clients I ever lost was a client who I was working with a professional development group, and we were talking about the importance of the integration of the marketing and business development team. And they had never had that conversation. And when they integrated them into the process, they actually came back and said, thank you so much for that suggestion. Our marketing team is so excited to be part of this program. They want to help us develop that curriculum together. So we don't need you anymore. But that is the way, when, as we look at it from consultants, we know we're doing something right when the pieces all start to fit together. And when we look at some of the trends we're seeing now in particularly as it relates to business development fundamentals across organizations. We work with a lot of firms traditionally. Hey, we have a set of new partners. Will you run our new partner program? Yes, we would gladly do that. Hey, we are starting an associate BD curriculum program. Can you help us do that? Yes, we would gladly help you do that. The trend that we're seeing in some of the most sophisticated engagements I've been working with this year in particular have been those teams that are thinking about, we would like to think about business development fundamentals across the life cycle of an attorney. So from the day that we come in to the day attorney retires, how can we create a model inside our firm that people can tap in and fly out as needed, and what would that look like? And that's there's a couple, just 2 quick points I would make on that. Number one is anchoring any firm that's thinking about what would need to be true for that to happen. The one thing you clearly need is an anchoring device around which your business development training is focused. So rather than hiring one firm to do this or one firm to do this, or this internal partner had a successful strategy, so we're going to train them on that successful partner strategy, we have one model that is consistent, and then we apply level appropriate skill building to a shared model. And we introduced last week our revenue acceleration framework. So some of the firms we're working with use that. Others are adapting a model like that so that they have a consistent way of talking about business development inside their organization. I think the second thing to understand is building a holistic model is the blueprint, and you want to think about what would need to be true for that to happen. You also don't need to do it all at once, because that is a big, heavy lift. So for example, one of the firms I'm working with right now, they started in the middle with that senior associate partner class, newer partners, and they focused on coaching and training there, primarily because there was a sense of urgency around it. And we found people were raising their hands at the time where they were coming up for partner, or after recently making partner and feeling that pressure to take the business development to the next level. And that was a way to get people excited and improve concept on a program like this. The other thing that it was valuable is it helped you learn the organization and what were the skills that senior associates and new partners were coming into the partnership with. So the second step, when we went and said, okay, let's look at the junior associates and mid-levels, in a perfect world, if we had launched this partner program, wouldn't it be awesome if they had if those senior associates and new partners had come in having been exposed to the business development fundamentals? Maybe they hadn't sold business before, but they had been connecting dots and building relationships for 5 to 7 years. So now they actually had some tools to work with. So there were a couple different benefits to that. And then the third step, the client that I'm referring to right now, is now we're looking at a seasoned seller program, because we're recognizing that there's, again, more urgency for revenue generation. And so building on that and to extend the fact that throughout our career, we constantly need reinforcement training, and we're going to hit plateaus. And so oftentimes, if you have a partner who's hit 1 million, or who has hit 2 million, or has hit 500,000, but they get stuck and they want to take their practice to the next level, that's a great place for a great acceleration. And so over time, you can build that, but you're thinking long-term about how are you going to do it in the best way possible. And I think that last point about what is going to get when you're trying on new programs, or you're trying to advance an existing program that you have, how are we going to create that motivation and urgency around it? What Taz is going to talk about next is what are where do we see places where we can create that urgency?
Yeah, thanks so much, Deb. It's a great segue to situational training and coaching. So when we talk to our clients, I talked a moment ago about this idea that, we do these training and coaching programs, and then there's a ton of momentum in the moment, and then people go back to their offices, do the same thing that they've always done. Layered learning, the level appropriate learning, is a tool to help combat that situation. When we think about situational training and coaching, we think about that as the antidote to a different problem, which is oftentimes when we talk to our clients, they tell us that they create these awesome business development workshops or training programs, coaching programs, you name it, and people don't actually show up. They don't participate. They don't get nearly the level of participation and engagement that they want. And so situational training can be a way to drive urgency and engagement, because in large part what you're doing is you're meeting people exactly where they are. So let's talk about a few different flavors of this. I want to start in the middle of our slide today and talk a little bit about affinity-based training and coaching. So one of the things that we are seeing a huge uptick in our business in the last couple of years, and really even more so in the last few months, is training and coaching for business development, specifically geared, for example, for women and diverse lawyers. And this is something that we at GrowthPlay have advocated for years, is that, a lot of the firms we work with want a way to advance and retain their women and diverse lawyers. From our perspective, there is no better way to do that than to equip women and diverse lawyers with the skills to build a book of business. Because as we all know, if someone has a big book of business, they are more likely to stay at the firm, and they are more likely to have a desire to continue to build a practice at the firm. And so one of the things that we've found is that doing training and coaching programs specifically geared towards women or diverse lawyers can be a way to drive engagement and an urgency, and to get people participating with us. Another way to think about it is with your lateral partners, right? A lot of our firms, and this has been, of course, a growing trend that many of you have seen, a lot of our firms have been investing a ton of dollars into recruiting new lateral partners. The lateral market has been incredibly active for years now. And yet, too many of us lament the woe that over half of those laterals don't actually pan out. Well, what if we created a training and coaching program around business development skills specifically geared towards laterals? How do you bring those clients that you had at your last firm over to the new firm? How do you cross-sell with your new platform and with your new colleagues in a way that's going to help you grow that book of business? All of those kinds of things. Again, if we can create a training and coaching program specifically geared towards lateral attorneys, we've got the ability, we've got urgency, we drive engagement, and we've got the ability to meet them where they are and really give them the skills that they need in the moment that they can, again, apply immediately. Deb, what would you add about the other categories here?
Yeah, so if you think about the team-based category, I think pre-COVID, one of the big trends that we were seeing and that was driving interest in business development training was the work done around law firm collaboration and profitability. And it was really opening the eyes. And I know many of you are still having this conversation, is how would we, what can we do to create more teaming and collaboration so that we can create conditions for higher profitability over the long term. And so that is what was creating some urgency and more focus around how can we as a practice group work better together, or industry teams or client teams. And you'll recall last week we talked about one tactic for tackling that, which was creating a business development playbook. But the other side of that is this concept of team selling, and how do you effectively go into a selling situation and coordinate, and what does it look like from selling? What is the difference between being able to go into a sales situation and selling yourself as an attorney to create trust and credibility with a client, and how is that different when you're trying to sell a team? That sales conversation actually looks different and requires a different set of skills. And so we saw that urgency around team-based, and a lot that has continued, again, given where are we going to get the greatest movement in our needle between now and the end of the year and going into 2021. I think on the other side of that, we are also seeing this idea of subject-based, that reinforcement training when there is something like literally on your plate right now that we need to be prepared for. So back in the olden days when we had giant industry events, right, doing a 45-minute networking best practices intensive with all the team that was going to go to that industry event, you see a lot of very instant results that come out of that. Another place where we're seeing a lot of interest right now is in that billing and fee care category. So imagine if 2 months before the end of your fiscal year close, you gave your partners a reinforcement training around collections conversations. And I'm going to steal Tasneem's thunder here for a minute. Her favorite saying is, yes, imagine if we use collections as a business development opportunity, and really talking to what does that conversation look like? How do you do it? And how do you do it in a way that creates broader conversations and isn't just like a woe is me, please don't ask me for a discount, I'm going to keep my head down, or not make that phone call at all and find out that we're missing out on collecting revenues. We don't often think of that as business development, but it's key to revenue generation. So those are just, again, as you're thinking about, we have limited budgets, we've got to make smart decisions on what we're doing. Those business development fundamentals are absolutely essential, but you also want to meet people where they are at different times in different places. So whether it's through the practice team, whether it's through a women's initiative, or whether it's through a shared pursuit that you're going after, those are all places where we're seeing the return on investment go way, way up. So, which is our final segue to our point 3 of the day is, as we start to think about this and we need to make smart decisions and we don't know where to start, what is the one thing we might do? And Taz, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Deb. This is, I think, I'm so glad that we are ending here, because it is, of the quandaries that I've talked about when it comes to what our clients tell us about driving business development, training, and coaching within their firms. Certainly one is people come to programs all excited, go away, do the same things they've always done. We've talked about what a potential antidote for that. A second one is we build these great programs, but no one comes, no one participates. We talked a little bit about an antidote for that just now. The other thing that we hear a lot is we build these great programs, and then our management gets impatient because they don't see results immediately, right? They're asking us about what's the ROI immediately. You did that training and coaching program. How come we haven't seen any new business today? And so when we think about investing in our seasoned doer sellers, one of the reasons that we want to do that is because it is the most foolproof way to drive short-term ROI from your efforts, and yet it is often overlooked, right? A lot of times we think about seasoned doer sellers and we think they've got it. Those are the people we don't need to help because they're actually doing something right, and yet when we're thinking about driving short-term ROI from investments in training and coaching, this is the place that we want to put them. And I want to talk for a moment about what we mean by seasoned doer sellers. So it's not necessarily your most accomplished rainmakers, the people who are driving the biggest books of business in your firm. for most of us, we do in fact want to leave those people alone. But it's likely to be the tier of partners or shareholders who are just after them, right? Those who have shown some track record of success, either because they have $1 million book of business, but we want to see if we can get them to 3 million. They've got a $4 million book of business. We want to see if we can get them to 10 million, that kind of thing. So they've got some track record for success, and they also have the potential for substantial growth in their practices. That's what we're talking about when we talk about seasoned doer sellers. So let's talk about 3 specific areas where we can help seasoned doer sellers create short-term results. One is in guarding and growing existing clients. So when it comes to guarding and growing existing clients, the things that we want you to focus on in terms of the kinds of skills and capabilities that we want to equip our seasoned sellers with is things like optimizing the client experience. Oftentimes we see, yes, our best relationship partners are very good at providing excellent client service themselves. And yet when they move into that role of seasoned doer seller, when they move into that role of relationship partner, we need them to have a different set of skills, which is not just offering great client experience themselves, but offering a team that consistently and across the board creates a great client experience. And so equipping them with those kinds of skills becomes important. Similarly, we want those relationship partners to be able to innovate around new problems and new solutions that we can sell to those clients. So equipping them with the skills to do that is helpful. And then last but not least, and certainly one of the most important, is being proactive about succession planning. We want to equip our relationship partners with the ability not just to be reactive, like, oh, I'm about to retire, let me figure out what to do in the next 6 months, but rather, how can we years in advance be proactive about creating continuity, business continuity with our clients from the perspective of it's valuable to them, not just we have to figure out how we not lose this business when a partner retires. So those are the kinds of skills that we want to equip seasoned doer sellers around with respect to guarding and growing existing clients. A second bucket is around proactive cross-selling. So when we talk about proactive cross-selling, this, a lot of our relationship partners are great at when their client calls them and says, hey, corporate partner, we have this dispute that has arisen in our business. Do you have people at your firm who can help us with that? By and large, our relationship partners are really good at reacting to those kinds of opportunities to cross-sell. But how do we get them thinking about proactive cross-selling? So things like, for example, achieving that all coveted trusted advisor status. As Deb and I and our colleagues at GrowthPlay have worked with clients over the course of the last couple of decades, one of the things that we have seen is that there are specific behaviors that our relationship partners can engage in that get them that trusted advisor status so that they can start to proactively cross-sell through things like tying legal solutions to business problems, right? That's another skill set. We need our relationship partners to be skilled at understanding a company's business objectives and then tying new legal solutions to that as a way to proactively cross-sell. Similarly, we want to equip our seasoned doer sellers with skills like conducting insight briefs or executive briefings as a way to create new opportunity, to get new practices or new capabilities in front of our clients by saying something along the lines of, hey, client, we know that we don't represent you in this area, and yet because you are one of our most valued clients, we want you to have access to our best thinking, and so we want to show you what we're doing in the area of employment or environmental or privacy or whatever it might be. And so thinking about how do we equip our most seasoned doer sellers with the ability, the skills to conduct insight briefs or executive briefs like that in order to create new business opportunity. And then finally, a final bucket where we want you to help equip your seasoned doer sellers is in accelerating referrals. So again, it's great when our most successful doer sellers get inbound referrals, right? Somebody who they were opposing counsel against, or an accounting firm or somebody like that they've got a good relationship with, calls and says, hey, I have a client who has a need in your area or your jurisdiction and whatever it is. our relationship partners tend to be very, very good at responding to and reacting to those kinds of referrals. But how do we get them proactively accelerating referrals? What that looks like is things like equipping our seasoned doer sellers with the skills to say, okay, alliance partner, right? Whether it's a trust and estates attorney and a wealth management firm, or whether it's a litigator and an accounting firm, or whether it's a corporate lawyer and an investment banking firm. We want those lawyers to be able to tell that alliance partner, this is what a good fit client looks like for me, or this is what a good fit problem that I can solve looks like, or here are some of the hot button issues that have clients calling me right now. If you have a client who is facing this issue, I want you to have them call me because I can really help them with that situation. So it's those kinds of skill sets that we want to equip our most seasoned doer sellers with in a way that drives immediate ROI from our training and coaching. Deb, what would you add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think everything that you're saying, we start to pull together what we've been talking about for the last 3 weeks, which is making smart investments in growth. We cannot shrink our way to profitability. That is an established fact. In finding the places to make the smartest choices, as we talk about the coaching and training opportunity, I think that that's really what Taz has just emphasized in all of the different ways. And as I think about from a professional standpoint, whether you're on the PD side or you're on the business development side, or if you're on a management committee and saying, how am I going to make the right choices? The growth that we've seen in seasoned sellers is pretty dramatic. And, when Tess and I were talking yesterday, I was reflecting, I have this amazing client that I worked with last year, and he came into the coaching and training program with a really impressive $3.6 million worth of business. And he literally was trying to determine whether he was going to quit the practice of law because of the way things were going for him. Over a 6-month coaching program, he moved from 3.6 to end his year at 5.2 million. Now, that is amazing results, but imagine if the firm that made the investment, it makes that investment in him, took just 10% of that growth that he saw in his practice and reinvested it in level appropriate skill building, situational training for your clients. You can start to make a really smart case for business development. And that's the area, if we did one thing, why we're really emphasizing the coaching and training portion of this. You've got to do it thoughtfully. You've got to do it right. You can't do it all at once. So you want to make sure you're getting those incremental wins. But it's such a great opportunity for enabling revenue, not just like in the short term, but long term as well. We just wanted to throw this as we wrap up today. We wanted to reinforce where we started and where we are. Our purpose for doing this program was to give you all a blueprint for making the smartest decisions based on the dynamics of your organization and not based on what everyone else is doing. And so we genuinely hope that we have armed you with some business case for why making investments are important. And we hope that this model that we've shared with you will help you initiate conversations in the firm. So if you're thinking things are going really, really well, and you're thinking long-term, how do we create that consistent and sustainable revenue? Having conversations about what is our growth plan? How clear are we about where we're trying to go? The order in which we're going to try to do those things, and how clear are we communicating it across the firm? If you don't know the answers to those questions, that leadership bucket is a really great place to start. And what that looks like tactically is creating a growth plan, not a strategic plan, a growth plan that you are going to act on and you're going to see results on over the next 12 to 18 months. If you have that in place, but you're not seeing the results that you want to see, we'd encourage you to focus on that teaming bucket. How clear are your business units? And by business units, your practice groups, your industry teams, your client teams, how clear are they on what they need to accomplish, how they're going to accomplish it, and most importantly, how they're going to measure and manage it so that you can see if you're on track with your overall growth plan. And if you have both of those things, or if you don't know where to start and you're looking for where can I make the greatest impact on short-term revenue, specifically if we're looking at now in the end of the year and into Q1 and Q2 of next year, we would encourage you to really focus on the business development coaching and training side and find out what do your attorneys need? Do they have the fundamentals that they need? Do they have the confidence that they need? And do they have the right level of motivation that is going to help bring them to action? So hopefully this is what we provided you with. Taz, as we wrap up today, any final thoughts from you?
Yeah, so that does in fact wrap up the first part of our program today. And if you're leaving us now, we really thank you for participating and we hope to hear from you in the near future. If you can stay in about 30 seconds, we're going to share the results of our pulse survey questions and we're going to address some of the questions that you have. If you want to submit a question, please use the chat feature. As Deb said, you know, our desire in this series over the past 3 weeks was to give you the tools that you need to be able to facilitate these conversations and turn them into action within your organizations. And that being said, we hope that it goes without saying that we would welcome the opportunity to be of assistance to you, whether that's informally to give you our perspective and to act as a sounding board or a resource, we'd love to do that. Or if there's an opportunity to formally partner with you to achieve some of these goals, we'd love to do that. So please do reach out to us. We also have been publishing the recordings as well as the materials from all of these programs every week. We'll do that again with this week's program. And so we would love for you to share those videos with your team, with others in your firm, with your colleagues, and we'd be happy to facilitate a conversation around these programs with your colleagues. So that's what we have for you all in terms of the program. And without further ado, Deb, I think we're going to jump to the pulse survey results.
Yes, thank you all. Okay, so we asked 2 final questions as part of this survey. We did 2 sessions for each of the 3 programs. So we are looking at questions 5 and 6 today. And the question we asked as it relates to business development, coaching and training is, where are the places that you are currently investing in business development? As you can see, associates and new partners, and some combination. There was pretty evenly split across the board, and I think in some senses very similar with what we've seen, Taz, in the sense of new partner programs, associate training and development programs. I was really encouraged to see the all of the above category, because I think that holistic view of how do you create that integrated program in a way that will support attorneys throughout the life cycle. Taz, what are your observations?
Yeah, you know, Deb, when I looked at this, I was buoyed to see that so many of your firms are investing across the board or in associates. That's awesome, 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 awesome to see. I would say, you know, the biggest opportunity that jumped out to me was the affinity-based training and coaching. And I will tell you, I've seen so much success with this kind of training and coaching in recent years, both around women and diverse lawyers, which all of us, I think all of our firms are looking for ways to retain and advance our women and diverse lawyers. And so this, I think, is a huge opportunity there. But then, like I said, with respect to lateral candidates, all of us are wringing our hands about the fact that we are competing tooth and nail for these excellent lateral candidates. And yet we hate the fact that over half of them don't pan out. That to me seems like a huge opportunity. Same thing, I can't tell you how many times I've talked to either on the one hand, a partner who's been elevated to a practice group leader or a team leader or an office managing partner or something like that, and is like, I don't even know what this job is, nor do I have the skills or, you know, or I'm winging it, right? And so thinking about how do we create training and coaching programs around those kinds of specific opportunities in an affinity-based way, I think that, to me, that was the real opportunity that I saw in this question.
Yeah, and I also wonder, I mean, this is anecdotal, but I've talked to a number, I don't think this is anecdotal. Many firms cut budgets this year when the pandemic hit, right? And one of the questions that we get asked frequently is, hey, we see this, how do we make the case for it? And when I see that affinity group bucket as narrow as it is, it does make me curious as to whether that was a victim of cuts in ways that maybe other programs weren't, because as we all know, women and people of color were disproportionately disadvantaged in the last recession. And so that's a red flag, literally a red flag in terms of what I'm seeing. So as we start to think about, what are the arguments for business development? Clearly, revenue generation is the goal of any business development coaching and training program, but we often overlook the retention and the retention aspect of it. Not just in terms of lateral hire success, but in terms of those D&I attorneys and people that we're really looking to invest in. And so one of the anecdotal stories I heard from a client earlier this year is that their team got together and say, what did we learn from the last recession? And what they learned was when they made across the board cuts in the interest of being equitable to everyone, that rising star associates and people of color and women felt like that we're really putting in the time and effort, and they felt like that they were treated like everyone else. They stayed through the recession, but after the recession was over, they went and found new homes and they went and looked. And then I particularly with women lawyers, one of the biggest things I've heard from the recession is that the Me Too movement crashing into the pandemic has really change the way we're thinking about what it means to be a lawyer and what we're willing to put up with. So women saying, gee, I don't want to hammer my head against the wall anymore at this organization when there are other firms out there who are welcoming me with open arms. So that's just again, that may be reading too much into these numbers, but it's some things that we've been thinking about and having conversations about.
Yeah. Deb, before we get to the next pulse survey question, one of the questions that we got through the Q&A is how do you build momentum after a training and coaching program? And, that to me is such an important question and something that we all ought to be thinking about well in advance of rolling out any kind of training and coaching program. And there's a few things that I would say to that. The first is that one of the things that I think we have the opportunity to do with a training and coaching program is to think about how do we roll that out in the context of also building business development skills and accomplishments into our professional development, our goal setting, and our review processes, right? So if we can have business development, not just showing up as a workshop or a coaching program, but also showing up in your annual goal setting process for either partners or for associates, right? Where we're asking you, okay, let's talk about what do you want to accomplish in your practice this year? What skills are you trying to build? What are you trying to make happen in your practice? If business development and client development skills and accomplishments can be a part of that goal setting, that's really helpful. Similarly, at the end of the year, when we're doing our review and compensation processes, thinking about how do we take business development accomplishments and progress and momentum and build that into the review process, so that part of the review process is having people evaluate themselves or being evaluated on the progress that they've made towards building business development skills. Again, in a level appropriate way, right? So I think that's one opportunity that we have, is to build business development skills and accomplishments into our professional development programs, particularly our goal setting and our review processes. A second thing I would say about building momentum after training and coaching programs is building business development into our business processes. So for example, I hear all of the time people complaining about the fact that they're, I love the Superman cup, by the way. I hear from people all the time that they sit through practice group meetings and want to stab pencils in their eyes because they're so incredibly boring and they don't, they're not a good use of time and energy and things like that. What if we built, we used part of our practice group or industry team or client team meetings as an opportunity to talk about sales, right? What if those were our sales meetings and we talked about, these are the things that we're doing for marketing and business development. Here are the pursuits that I have, and this is what I'm trying to accomplish. One of the things that we hear all of the time when we do cohorts of training and coaching is that the participants get so much out of the opportunity to exchange ideas and to learn from the experience of their colleagues. So if we can build business development discussions into those broader business processes, like practice group meetings, office meetings, industry team meetings, client team meetings, you name it. I think building business development into those processes can be very, very helpful as well. And then the last thing that I would say is, I think one of the things that we have found is that when it comes to building momentum after a training and coaching program, it often is a one-size-fits-one proposition, right? So some lawyers are really great at setting up a system with their admin to have their admin help them stay on track when it comes to marketing and business development objectives. Some people are really good at working with a partner within the firm, like a peer or a mentor, to hold them accountable, and they set up, a weekly or a monthly check-in with that colleague to say, hey, let's hold each other's feet to the fire when it comes to our marketing and business development objectives, things like that. I have some former coaching clients who say, I use my business development manager for that purpose, and I meet with my business development manager once a month, and my business development manager keeps me honest when it comes to my marketing and business development skills. Some people like an app that tells them what to do, right? I've got a lot of clients who use a personal CRM system that they can log into on their phone that tells them, hey, you said that you wanted to be in touch with this person quarterly. It's been 6 months since you've logged any kind of interaction with them. What's going on? What are you going to do? How are you going to get involved with them? So I think those are some of the ways that we can build momentum after a training coaching program, by building it into our professional development processes, like our goal setting and review processes, by building it into our business processes, like practice group meetings or industry team meetings, and by meeting people where they are and really thinking about it from a one-size-fits-one. What is the thing that we can do to help you build the systems and processes and tools that you need to keep on track with your business development efforts? Deb, anything you would add to that?
Just two quick tactical, everything Taz said, two quick technical applications. Number one, I've seen a ton of success on coaching and training programs when we are working hand in hand with either the professional development or the marketing team. The best and most successful programs I have, they are actively involved in the process. And what that looks like is, let's say we do a 6-month training program. We do the first 3 months, which is very intensive coach one-on-one, because people need that safety zone. But during the second half of the program, you start to roll in the firm resources. So whether that's a BD manager or a professional development person, so that they are learning and understanding how far the person has come, and they can start, the internal professional development side can start accessing internal resources, so that this is not a one and done program, but it's actually part of the ongoing support of the business development attorney. Second way I've seen that help is when you have, I just finished a program and we were getting feedback during a momentum building session, and this was a senior associate who said, I so wish that someone had done, my biggest takeaway from this program is that I had no idea how important maintaining my law school and professional network was until now that I'm 8 years into my practice. And I think it's so important that we have this, like if I had this program that when I was a summer or in the first year, I think it would have had a significant impact on me. So that not only created the motivation inside the firm to get a first year program, but we brought the attorneys who had gone through the other coaching program in. So it wasn't some third party saying it was important. It was someone from the firm who isn't the biggest rainmaker in the firm, but someone who learned from this experience, and it creates that momentum to expand it broader with other folks. And then the last just tactical thing is when we talk about metrics, a lot of times, the pressure and we feel imposter syndrome come on, because the only way you can measure success in business development is by revenue in the door. So getting a set of discrete metrics that shows movement and is measurable, not for the firm, but for individual people, is really important. And the three metrics I always think: did you grow the number of people you have relationships with? How many conversations did you have? Did you deepen the relationship? And did those conversations lead to uncovering a business opportunity? Those are examples of very sticky, practical things that you can measure. And to think about metrics not being about reporting up to the firm and proving whether you're good enough or not, but being in about how do I maintain my own momentum and how do I know if what I'm doing is working? And so that you can have very specific conversations is, hey, I have a huge network. I'm having tons of conversations. I'm not getting opportunities. So two of those three things are working really well. Now we can hone in on this one area. And so that's where I think metrics are actually used right. They help build momentum over the long term.
It's so true, Deb. We always talk about giving people high fives and belly bumps and popping champagne just from following up with people after a conference or whatever it is. But those are the things that put wind in people's sails, right? When we give people high fives for having sent follow-up emails after a conference, it gives them a sense of progress and momentum that encourages them to keep going so that they feel like they are making, that they are seeing results, even if it's not revenue in the door immediately, but that they want to keep going because they feel like they're getting somewhere and not just spinning their wheels.
Yeah, the saddest conversation, or saddest and ultimately coolest conversation, that I had with a new partner, and he was writing his first comp memo last year, and he's like, Deb, I feel like my narrative on my comp memo it was a year of near misses. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? Tell me what you mean by that. And he talked about all these opportunities, where he won the business. He's a litigator. He won the business and the case got settled. I'm like, well, that's not a near miss. You're the first phone call the next time they get sued. That was actually a win. Or, we came in second. But that was a client that has serial litigation. They didn't get hired for that particular matter because of a unique circumstance. They're going to get invited to the table again. Those are important leading indicators of success. And one of the cool things we've been doing around in the pipeline management is how do you get your arms around that? And the types of metrics that we're talking about, those are the leading indicators of success. It's a great way for individual attorneys to really demonstrate their worth. And even if their numbers don't match, to be able to show, here's what's going to happen to me next year. And we always joke that if law firms were investor backed, things would look really different because they wouldn't actually care what you did last year. They'd really want to know what's in your pipeline for next year because this year is over. And so these are all things as we start to build those holistic growth models inside law firms. They seem like really small things, but that question about momentum building is a seed that's going to grow the entire holistic growth plan that you want to build inside the organization. Okay, Taz, we have a lot to say today, I see.
I like it. It's sad. We have to end now.
I know.
Pulse survey question 6.
Yeah, so our last question, you want to take us through that one?
For sure. So we asked you all whether you plan to, whether in 2021 as compared with 2020, are your training and coaching programs, are you going to offer more, less, the same, or you don't offer any, and so there's nothing to continue? And so what we heard from you is that over half of you, your training and coaching programs investments are going to stay stable, which is great news. I'm glad to hear that this is not an area where your firms are pulling back, that you're continuing to invest. Full third of you said that you're going to increase. Hooray! Hallelujah. You are heeding the advice from Deb and my stories that we started the top of the hour with, right? This is the time to invest, and we hope today we've given you some good ways to invest. And then a small handful of you either had no training or very small plan to decrease, and hopefully today's program will give you some ammunition for convincing your management teams and your leadership teams that these are investments that are worth making. Deb, what did you take away from this?
Yeah, same things. I guess my message would be for the folks in the decrease or no training category. If the reason you're on this call today is because you think this is important and you're having trouble getting that conversation started with your firm, shoot us an email after this program. We've put together just a series of bullet points for what firms need to be thinking about for making these investments. So some of those things around diversity, around retention, around revenue growth, around collaboration and profitability. We've got just like a nice little set of bullet points. We'd be happy to share them with you because we think those are so important. And I would just say for the rest of you who are looking, who are going to maintain or increase, I've had a couple really great conversations with folks this week in which they're trying to figure out their budget for next year. And they say, hey, we've been doing X, but we're investing in all these things. And I said, hey, would you be willing, if you're willing to share your budget with me, I can actually tell you if you're spending your money in the right places, if that budget is realistic. And the outcome of both of those conversations, I've had two of them this week, was, look, your budget is fine. I think you can get more bang for your buck if you think about it in these ways. And here's some ways we can get you that 3-to-1 leverage on what you're doing and help make you measurable around that. So again, those are all things we're putting a lot of thought into as we look at what's coming next and how coaching and training is adapting to the new world order that we're living in. So anyone who has interest in those, again, please reach out to us. We'll be happy to share them. In the meantime, later today, you should get a copy of this video and a follow-up email. Again, we hope that you will share it with your teams internally and use it to create the conversations that you have. And if a similar conversation or to facilitate a discussion about what would be best for you for your particular situation, either now or looking into next year, if it would be helpful. It's something we routinely do for our existing clients, and we'd be happy to extend the courtesy to any of you on this call today. So just reach out to us. We'd be happy to have that conversation. Taz?
I think this is goodbye. It's been so great. It's been a fun 3 weeks. We hope that this short program format, the Pulse survey questions, the content that we delivered was valuable to you. We very much look forward to hearing from you. If we can be sounding boards or resources or brainstorming partners with you, we'd be delighted to do that. And in the meantime, have a great rest of your week and weekend. And we will look forward to being in touch. Bye, gang.
Thanks so much, guys.
Arrivederci.